Hi everyone, and thank you so much for watching my channel, The Witty Turtle. So in today's class, we are going to start with another section of presumptive taxation, which is very important for both CMA and CA Inter and Final. So the section is section 4480, which speaks about special provisions for calculating PGBP income on presumptive basis, right? So now you might be thinking, till now we have studied four sections on presumptive taxation, but what is different in this? So the difference is that in this section, section 44 AD, there are only three eligible SSCs. Okay, there are only three eligible SSCs. The first condition is that all these three eligible SSCs have to be residents. Okay, and who are these three eligible SSCs? The first one is either an individual. The second is it can either be HUF, that is your Hindu undivided family, and lastly it can be any firm other than any limited liability partnership firm, right? So how many eligible SSCs are there? Individual, HUF and firms, excluding LLP or limited liability partnership firms, right? Now another thing is that this is applicable on which SSCs? If all these three SSCs who are residents and they are carrying out any kind of business whose turnover is up to 2 crores, whose turnover is within 2 crores, right? So in that case, this particular section says that their PGBP income shall be deemed to be 8% of their total turnover or their gross receipt, right? Either their total turnover or their gross receipt, uska 80 uska 8%, right? 8% of total turnover or gross receipt, right? Now in this case, another thing that we need to remember is that when we are talking about business, so four things are not allowed in this case. Okay, the first is any kind of professionals like CA, CMA, architectures, interior designers, practicing doctors, advocates, all these professionals, they do not come under business, under the category of business. Okay, the second point says that any person who is working on a brokerage basis or on a commission basis is again not a again does not come under the list of business. The third point says that any person who is going for any agency business is not included in the list of business. And lastly, section 44 AE, any business which falls under section 44 AE, that doesn't fall under this particular section, right? So what did we study till now? It says that this particular section is applicable on any SSE who is a resident, who can be either an individual or HUF or any firm, excluding limited liability partnership firm, right? And there has to be a business whose turnover is up to 2 crore rupees, and in that case the PGBP income shall be 8% of the total turnover or the gross receipt, right? And the second thing is that in this case, four things do not come under the list of business. The first is any kind of professionals. The second is any person who is working on a commission or brokerage basis. The third point says that any kind of agency business. And the fourth point says that any kind of business which comes under the purview of section 44 AE, right? So they don't come under the list of business. This particular section is not applicable on these four businesses, right? Okay, now the next point that we need to understand is that we studied that the PGBP income of all these individuals, HUFs and firms shall be 8% of their total turnover or gross receipt, right? But there are some cases where this 8% shall be replaced by 6%, right? So in what cases it happens? It happens in the cases where the turnover received by account pay check or account pay demand draft or electronic clearing system or any other online mode prescribed, right? We have already studied that your BHIM, UPI, IMPS, net banking, your QR code, debit card, credit card, all these things, if they are received by all these three things up to the due date of return filing, up to the due date of return filing, then it shall be, then the PGBP income shall be 6% of the total turnover or the gross receipt. Understood? Yes. So, what did we study till now? We studied that the turnover received by, or the turnover which is realized, right, which is realized up to the date of return, up to the due date of return filing, via account pay check, account pay demand draft, electronic clearing system, or any other such prescribed online mode, right? Now, here you can see one example on your screen, where Mr. Akhil is the SSE, who is a resident individual, and his turnover is given as 80 lakh rupees, right? Out of that 80 lakh, he received 20 lakhs in cash. He received 20 lakhs in cash. Then he received 40 lakhs in check, which was received on 19th March 2022. Okay, so we are doing it for previous year 2021-22. Now, the next thing that he received is 10 lakh rupees via NEFT on 30th July. Yeah, 30th July 2022, which is of course before your due date. And lastly, he again received 10,000 as NEFT on 15th September 2022, right? So now, according to the rule, or according to whatever we studied till now let's think what percentage will be applicable here. So coming to the first thing, which is your 20 lakh rupees cash, it is as it is received by cash, pure hard cash. So in this case, 8% will be applicable. Next, coming to 40 lakhs. 40 lakhs was received through check, and we are assuming it was an account pay check, right? So as it was received before the due date of return filing, so again 6% will be applicable here. The next is what? The next is NEFT. 10 lakh rupees NEFT, which was again received one day before the return filing date, right? So again in this case also 6% will be applicable. And lastly, 10,000 via NEFT was received on 15th September, right? So which was obviously after the due date of return filing. So in this case also 8% will be applicable. 8% will be taken as your PGBP income, right? I hope this is clear. Now, whatever things we studied till now, it is, if you think about it practically, then let's say your PGPP income was 10%. Okay. But if you are going for this particular section, then obviously you are getting benefited, right? You're getting benefited by 2% because your actual income was 10%, but here you have to show your PGPP income as 8%, right? But think about the cases where your actual income is less than 10%, less than your 8%. Okay. For example, now look at the next example, where Mr. Akshit is there, whose turnover is 80 lakhs, and his actual profit is 1 lakh rupees only. Out of the turnover of 80 lakh, his actual PGBP income is 1 lakh only. So in this case, you can show the actual profit as less than 8%, right? Because your 8% is 6 lakhs 40,000 and his actual income is only 1 lakh rupees, right? So in this case, you can show the actual profit is less than 8% by doing two things. By doing two things. The first is you have to maintain the books of accounts, and secondly, you have to get those books of accounts audited. Doing these two things are mandatory if you are trying to show your income less than 8%. Less than 8% or 6%, as the case may be, right? Yes. So that was your normal law. But now if you go and study this in detail, then what happens? For example, if you are maintaining your books of accounts, then you have to incur an expenditure of at least around 35 to 36,000. And if you are again getting those books of accounts audited, then you have to pay the chartered accountant again 14,000 rupees, let's say. So in this case, what is happening? So you had an actual profit of 1 lakh rupees, but out of that 50,000 to you hi chala gaya, right? You lost 50,000 in maintaining the books of accounts and getting the books of accounts audited, right? So finally you are left with only 50,000, right? So to solve this particular problem, the lawmakers came up with another provision which says that if your net taxable income, or NTI, is up to the basic exemption in this case, as this is an individual, so in this case it is 2 lakhs 50,000, right? Which is your 2.5 lakhs, right? So if your net taxable income, or NTI, is up to the basic exemption, So in that case, you are not supposed to maintain the books of accounts, and you do not need to get your books of accounts audited by any accountant, right? So in this case, what happens? The SSE can directly show a profit of 1 lakh rupees, which is the actual profit, right? Why? Because this profit amount is his NTI, or net taxable income. So this 1 lakh rupees is obviously less than your basic exemption, which is your 2.5 lakhs, right? So for that reason, the lawmakers came up with another uh, provision, right? I hope this is clear. But in this case, another catch is there, which says that if your turnover is more than 1 crore rupees, okay, if it is more than 1 crore rupees, and your net taxable income, or NTI, is up to basic exemption, then in that case, what happens? See, in the previous example, the turnover was 80 lakhs, right? Which was less than 1 crore. But if your turnover is more than 1 crore, and your NTI is up to the basic exemption, then again in that case you have to maintain the books of account according to section 44 AA, and again you have to get your books of accounts audited under section 44 AB, right? I hope this is clear. So till now, what did we study? We studied that the eligible SSC has to be a resident, and they have to be either an individual or an HUF, or a firm which should not be a LLP, right? The next thing is that they have to do any business whose turnover is up to 2 crores. Okay, it has to be up to 2 crores. Then only they can avail this section. And this business does not include four things. The first is that any professional. The second is any kind of business which includes commissioning or brokerage income. The next is any kind of agency business, and lastly, your transporter business, which comes under your section 44 AE, right? So all these businesses do not come under the list of business according to section 44 AD, right? So if all these conditions are satisfied, then the PGBP income shall be 8% of your gross receipt or your total turnover. Now, if the turnover received by account pay check, or account pay demand draft, or electronic clearing system, or any other online prescribed mode, so in that case, and yes, if they are received up to the due date of return filing, so in that case, this amount of 8% shall be replaced by 6%. So if all these conditions are satisfied, and all these incomes are realized up to the due date of return filing, then what happens? Then the PGBP income shall be 6%, right? Not 8%. It shall be 6% of your total turnover or gross receipt. The next point says that if your actual income is less than 8% or less than 6%, so in that case, you can maintain the books of accounts, and you have to get those books of accounts audited, and then you can show your actual profit as less than 8%. But here is another catch, which says that if your net taxable income is up to the basic exemption, which is 2.5 lakhs, so in that case, no need for auditing and no need for maintaining the books of accounts. You can directly show your actual profit as your PGBP income, right? And you can pay tax on that. Another thing is that if your turnover is more than 1 crore rupees and your NTI is up to the basic exemption, so in that case, as it is more than 1 crore rupees, so you still have to maintain books of accounts, and you still have to get those books of accounts audited, right? So till now, I think everything is clear. Here another small thing is that in this section, all the sections between section 30 to section 38 shall be deemed to be given as full effect, right? इसका मतलब है, even though the deductions are not claimed, still it will be assumed that they are claimed, right? You're not supposed to claim deduction under this section, because you're simply calculating direct percentage of income, right? The next point is that even if you are like you're not claiming depreciation, still the calculation of written down value of your block of asset shall be continuing, right? आपका चालू रहेगा, मतलब कैलकुलेशन ऑफ WDV ऑफ ब्लॉक वो चालू रहेगा, कुछ भी हो जाए. Even if you are not claiming depreciation, still you have to continue the calculation of written down value of your block of asset, right? So I hope till now everything is clear. After this, we are going to study one very, very important concept in this section, right? This concept says that if once you have availed this section 44 AD, then for the next 5 years you have to avail section 44 AD, right? Once availed section 44 AD, then you have to avail 44 AD for upcoming 5 years. For the upcoming 5 years, you have to avail it. For example, look at this particular example. In this, in the previous year 1920, your turnover is 60 lakhs and your PGBP income is 8 lakhs, right? So it is more than 8%. So here in this previous year, you have availed section 44 AD, right? So as you have availed section 44 AD in the previous year 1920, so for the upcoming 5 years, 5 previous years, those are your 2021, 21-22, 22-23, 23-24, and 24-25. For all these 5 years, you have to avail section 44 AD, right? So this is according to the rule. Now coming to the second previous year, here again another catch is there. So in the second previous year, that is the previous year 2021, what is happening? The turnover is 1 crore rupees, right? The turnover is dot 1 crore rupees and your PGBP income is 12 lakhs, right? So again it is more than 8%. So in this case also you are claiming section 44 AD, right? You are availing section 44 AD. Now, the next section says the next previous year, the turnover is 80 lakhs, but the PGBP income is 5 lakhs only, right? 8% of 80 lakhs will be how much? 6 lakhs 40,000. But in this case, the PGBP income of 5 lakhs is less than 8%. It is less than 8%. So, in this case, what happens? You are not eligible for your section 44 AD, right? So in this case what happens? There is a violation of the rule. Which rule? एक बार लिया तो 5 साल तक लेना पड़ेगा. Here there is a violation of the rule which says that once you availed 44 AD, then you have to avail 44 AD for upcoming 5 years, right? So this particular provision is being violated in this case. So in this violation, you have to check whether your NTI is less than basic exemption or your NTI is more than basic exemption. If your net taxable income is more than the basic exemption amount, so in that case you have to get your you have to maintain your books of accounts and you have to get those books of accounts audited, even though your turnover is not 1 crore. Still you have to do it, right? We studied this in the earlier also, right? We have studied this. Now another section says that another interesting, very interesting rule is that once section 44 AD is not availed, right? Once you have not availed section 44 AD, or once there is a violation in availing section 44 AD, then it cannot be availed up to the upcoming 5 years. Once there is a violation, then you cannot avail section 44 AD for upcoming 5 years, right? So in this case what happens? Now look at where I have made a circle in blue sketch pen. So you made a violation in the previous year 21-22, right? So after 21-22, check for 5 years, starting from previous year 2022-23 up to 2026-27. For all these 5 years you cannot claim your section 44 AD, right? But again, another thing is that in these 5 years, if in any of the previous years your net taxable income is more than the basic exemption, then obviously you have to maintain the books of accounts and you have to get those books of accounts audited, right? I hope this is clear. Now another thing is that uh, let's take another example. In the previous year, let's say previous year 22-23, right? जिस ईयर में वायलेशन हुआ उसके नेक्स्ट ईयर में योर टर्नओवर इज 40 lakhs and your PGBP income is coming as 7 lakhs. Okay. So in this case, tell me, your will you be able to take 44 AD? Check for 8 lakh 8%. 8% is 5 lakhs and your PGBP income is 7 lakhs. So yes, you can claim, but the answer is no. You cannot claim. Why? Because in the last year, in the immediately preceding year, there is a violation of the rule. So you cannot claim 4480 for the upcoming 5 years. So even though you are qualifying, still you cannot claim section 4480. So in this case, your PGBP income is 7 lakhs. So as the 7 lakhs is more than 2.5 lakhs, which is your basic exemption, so in this case, you have to get your books of accounts audited, and obviously you have to maintain the books of accounts, right? Another thing, come to previous year 2021, right? Here the turnover is 1 crore rupees. But in that case, if the turnover becomes 3 crores, then will it be called as a violation? The answer is no, it cannot be called as a violation. Why? Because if we go to the beginning of the class, then we already started that this particular section shall be applicable on those SSEs whose turnovers are up to 2 crores, right? So यहाँ पे अगर आपका turnover is 3 crore rupees, so obviously you're not eligible for this section, right? So यहाँ पे तो violation non violation की बात ही नहीं आई, right? So ये basically आप लोग का जो भी था, whatever provisions were there in section 44AD, there was only this much, right? Another thing is that uh, whenever you have to write this particular provision that you have to maintain the books of accounts and you have to get those books of accounts audited, then simply remember that maintaining the books of accounts comes under section 44 double A, 44 AA, right? And getting those books of accounts audited comes under the section 44 AB, right? Section 44 AB, that we will further study in the upcoming classes, right? Remember this thing, because in the upcoming sections also this is very important. So I really hope this is clear. I hope this 5 years wala provision is clear for everybody. Once you have availed section 44AD, then you have to avail section 44AD for upcoming 5 years. But if in any of the years there is a violation, so in that case, the year in which the violation is done, after that up to 5 years, up to 5 upcoming years, you cannot avail section 4480, right? I hope everything is clear. So yes, that was it for today's class. Yes, another thing is that uh, you might think that whether this particular section is compulsory or mandatory or optional. So if we go by theory, then yes, it is an optional section. But if we go by a practical approach, then it is a mandatory section. Why? Because if you don't take it, right, then chances are there that you have to pay more tax. Why? Because if your actual income or the actual PGBP income is more than 8%, right, then you have to pay more tax. Then if you avail this section, in that case, then you are coming in profit, because actual income is 10%, but here you have to show your income as 8%. So obviously there is a profit in this case. But if you have less income, then you have to maintain your books of accounts and you have to do the audit, right? So if your income is more than this, then you will be in loss. And if your income is less than the 8%, then you have to get your books of accounts audited. So in a way, it is a mandatory section for all the individuals, HUFs and firms excluding LLPs whose turnover is up to 2 crores, right? I hope this is clear. That was it for today's video. I know this is a very long class, and I really hope you have understood section 4480. After this, very small sections are there, and we are very soon going to complete PGBP. If you find this video helpful, then please hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, The Witty Turtle, and yes, don't forget to hit the bell icon so that tomorrow you'll be notified when I'll upload a new video. And obviously don't forget to share this video and this playlist with your CA, CMA, inter and final friends.